The closing bell has rung, but the business story continues. I'm Robert Tan, you're watching Business Brief. Let's get started. The government distributes cash aid to drivers of public utility vehicles amid the continuing rise in fuel prices. The Justice Department rejects the Villar Group's request to return an insider trading complaint against them to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And European countries refuse to heed U.S. President Trump's call to provide security of ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Another round of fuel prices take effect as Chesulit reports a double-digit increase could push the cost of diesel to more than 100 pesos a liter.
Oil firms are implementing the second round of the big-time fuel price hike today, March 17. Motorists will have to tighten up their belts yet again due to the next wave of the double-digit price increases. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin says this marks the country's most expensive fuel prices. This ongoing conflict in the Middle East, where passing through the Strait of Hormuz is still considered unsafe for oil shipments. Based on figures released by the Energy Department on Monday, gasoline will increase by 12 pesos and 90 centavos to 16 pesos and 60 centavos per liter. Diesel by 20 pesos and 40 centavos to 23 pesos and 90 centavos per liter, and kerosene by 6 pesos and 90 centavos to 8 pesos and 90 centavos per liter. Garin also said 5 companies have disclosed their staggered fuel price hike scheme for this week. At Shell, gasoline will have a total increase of 16 pesos and 60 centavos per liter. Diesel will rise by 23 pesos and 90 centavos, while kerosene will go up by 6 pesos and 90 centavos. At Petron, gasoline will see a total increase of 12 pesos and 90 centavos per liter. Diesel will go up by 20 pesos and 40 centavos. Kerosene will increase by 8 pesos and 90 centavos. Flying V will also implement the same price hikes. Meanwhile, Total and Sea Oil will implement staggered price hikes for 2 days. Sea Oil will raise gasoline prices by a total of 16 pesos and 30 centavos per liter. Diesel will increase by 23 pesos and 30 centavos, while kerosene will go up by 6 pesos and 90 centavos. At Total, gasoline will increase by 14 pesos and 10 centavos per liter, while diesel will increase by 20 pesos and 70 centavos. As oil prices surge in the world market, Garin said diesel prices could possibly reach 115 pesos per liter. Last week, fuel prices also saw sharp increases, with diesel rising by as much as 24 pesos and 25 centavos per liter, gasoline up by 13 pesos per liter, and kerosene by as much as 38 pesos and 50 centavos per liter. On lands, the House of Representatives has approved on third and final reading a bill that would allow President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to suspend fuel excise tax collection during emergencies. Diesel is currently taxed at 6 pesos per liter, gasoline at 10 pesos, kerosene at 5 pesos, and liquefied petroleum gas at 3 pesos per liter. Garin also assures the Philippines has enough fuel supply until the end of April. She says the Marcos administration is negotiating additional supplies from South Korea, Thailand, Singapore, and Japan, while also searching for alternative suppliers for its stockpile. Garin adds that she is open to reviewing the oil deregulation law, but only to a certain extent. The DOE continues to push for fuel efficiency measures, urging Filipinos to use resources responsibly and stop hoarding. Motorists are also lining up today in gas stations. Despite the price hikes effective today, people are filling up their vehicles up to the full tank.
For me, hindi naman ako madalas mag-full tank, pero baka ganun na yung maging regular ko na gawin para mas tipid. Na lang ako pumunta ng gas station.
Wala tayong magawa. It's beyond our control. Minamanage na namin ang crisis. Isa-isa lang lahat.
Motorists have said they are coming to terms with the fuel price increases. They have also said that they are in support of the government in their efforts to mitigate these challenges. Chesulit, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Department of Justice rejects the Villar Group bid to return an insider trade against them to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Prosecutors say the SEC's findings are sufficient and any further requests to return the case will be treated as counter-affidavits. The case stems from allegations engaged in market manipulation, insider trading, and misleading disclosures, fueling a surge in its share price. Respondents, including members of the Villar family, till April 20 to file their defense as the DOJ pushes forward with its probe. A business leader warns that the rising fuel costs will eventually drive up prices of goods. On BNC's Business 360, Federation of Philippine Industries Chairman Emeritus Jesus Aranza said there's no way for companies to absorb such increases.
Sooner or later it will be higher and higher. So that will not be, nobody will be exempt from that. It's a matter now of how can the consumer also sustain using these products. I think consumers will also be selective this time. They will have to cut on some other expenses they have to minimize their cost. Getting all these things. Consumer will be the end recipient of all this. But the manufacturing probably reduce its operations, but not much can be done in the operation side.
The Department of Labor and Employment encourages private firms to adopt flexible work arrangements, including a 4-day work week. The move aims to mitigate the impact of rising fuel costs amid escalating in the Middle East. Under a 4-day work week, the standard 40 hours are compressed into 4 days, while work-from-home setups allow employees to work remotely depending on the nature of their job. As fuel prices rise, workers feel the strain, prompting the government to push practical, voluntary solutions for businesses. The Department of Budget and Management denies delays in fund release for public works projects. This comes after lawmakers claim some locally funded DPWH projects are being held up. The agency says all releases follow strict protocols under the 2026 General Appropriations Act. Any delays result from project changes that require additional clearance. DBM reiterates its role to ensure funds are released legally and in strict compliance with the law. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. enumerates several measures to mitigate the impact of rising fuel prices. These include providing cash aid to public utility drivers. PBBM clarifies even drivers in ride-hailing apps will also get aid. The president also said that the Department of Agriculture will continue distributing a 3,000 peso fuel subsidy to more than 26,000 farmers. 26,000 fisher folk will also get the same amount from the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources by Thursday.
Ipapamahagi ng DSWD ang 5,000 sa 139,000 na tricycle drivers sa 17 LGU sa Metro Manila. At isusunod na ng DSWD ang pamamahagi sa mga tricycle driver naman sa labas ng Metro Manila. Sa mga susunod na araw, ang mga jeepney at TNVS driver ay makaka 5,000 pesos na cash relief assistance. At sa huling linggo ng Marso, ilalabas na ng DOTR ang fuel subsidy. Maliban dito, na-certify ko na bilang urgent ang 2 panukalang batas na magbabawas sa excise tax sa petrolyo at mag-aamyenda sa Biofuels Act upang magamit natin ang mas murang bioethanol.
The government has started distributing cash aid for public utility drivers. It will initially benefit drivers in Metro Manila before spreading to the provinces. And let's get an update from San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora. He now joins us on the line. Good afternoon, Mayor Zamora.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me in your program.
Mayor, is the 5,000 peso aid for tricycle drivers a one-time thing?
Robert, first of all, we will have to finish the entire Metro Manila and then eventually move on to the other regions of our country. We're using the funds of the DSWD, and this is within our national budget. So regarding your question, it will really depend on the national government if they will have a second round of the financial assistance. But during our meeting last week with Executive Secretary Ralph Recto and the DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian and DOTR Secretary Giovanni Lopez, the objective is to first distribute the first round to all drivers in the different regions. When I say drivers, these are drivers of our public transport sector. So the tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers, TNVS drivers, UV Express drivers, bus drivers, so even the motorcycle taxi drivers. So we will have to see first how far the first round will go, and then we will evaluate the situation, Robert.
Mayor, isn't it a bit late given today's fuel price surge?
Well, no, we met last week, Wednesday, and after that meeting, Secretary Gatchalian met with the heads of our city and development departments, heads. And over the weekend, we finalized all the listings. And today, Tuesday, just 6 days after that meeting, we are already distributing all over Metro Manila. So I believe that this is a quick response given the timeline that we have, that we had to still generate the list, verify them, ensure that everyone in the list is a legitimate recipient. And the rollout already started today simultaneously in 30 sites in Metro Manila.
Citizens are commenting that aid should be given to all and not just drivers of public utility vehicles. Now, is your local government providing aid to San Juan residents as well?
Well, again, the amount that has been allocated is within our national budget. And why first? Because they are really affected. Remember, our tricycle drivers, our jeepney drivers, they are not as well off as the others. So the government is prioritizing our public transport sector because they are really going to be affected. Not saying that all other citizens will not be affected, but within the hierarchy, they are really most affected because they often belong to low-income families. Now here in San Juan, our local government is ready to help as well using separate funds if needed. But then again, we are first distributing the aid from the national government. And through the local government support fund, which has been downloaded to us LGUs, we will be able to procure rice for our citizens. So this rice will be distributed to our beneficiaries, and the objective really is to soften the impact of the fuel crisis that we're now experiencing.
Is the San Juan government also monitoring gas stations? Now, received any reports of gas stations suddenly closing? How do you act on this?
Yes, actually, we conduct a regular checking of fuel pumps in the gas stations. We check on their calibration to ensure that the seals are not tampered. In fact, yes, and the other days, we conducted surprise inspections in our gas stations. We checked if the seals installed during previous calibrations were still there. And so far, all our gasoline stations are compliant. Remember that if we fuel above the allowed price range, above the allowed price range of the Department of Energy, or if we catch them tampering the seals that we have installed and is incorrect, we can immediately revoke their business permits and we can close them down. So this should serve as a warning to all of them that they must never cheat on our clients and our people and ensure that if someone loads up 50 liters of gasoline, they will really get 50 liters of gasoline.
Okay, does the government of San Juan have its own fuel and energy conservation measures?
Well, we have already adopted our 4-day work week effective last week, Robert. So Fridays here in San Juan work from home. Our employees work from home, but we keep our essential or vital departments open using a skeletal workforce. So we have done that already last week, and we will continue to implement this during this crisis. And all of these are under Memorandum Circular 114 issued by the Office of the President, signed by Executive Secretary Ralph Recto. So we have already started the conservation measures. Last Friday, our offices that were open, we consolidated our employees so that the lights and the air conditioning units that were turned on were clustered so as to save on electricity. And even our gasoline consumption, which is now going to be limited because the annual budget we have allocated for gasoline can now buy less gasoline because the prices have increased. So we have to now conserve on the use of our vehicles and ensure that we can execute multitasking. So one trip should be able to achieve 2 or 3 objectives already.
Mayor, have you had discussions with the local, especially the SMEs, who might possibly have an effect in terms of the power rate hikes that they might happen soon? You know, what are the things that the government doing in terms of helping the local businesses during these times?
Well, we will be meeting with them soon. But first of all, if I may say, tomorrow our President, Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., will be inspecting our Agora Public Market and our groceries in the city. So basically, this is to ensure that our businesses are not overcharging. The prices of basic commodities be within the range allowed by the DTI. So we also have to really work well with each other in terms of ensuring that our businesses do not overcharge our citizens and that whatever prices are prevailing now must all be within the range allowed by the DTI and the Department of Energy when it comes to fuel prices.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Mayor Zamora.
Thank you very much, Robert. Just call me for any questions or clarifications.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a short break. This is Business Brief. We have this just in. The Philippines secures 2 million barrels of oil amid global supply threats. Finance Secretary Frederick Goss said the volume is equivalent to about 10 days' supply. He stressed that the government is focusing on controllable factors despite global uncertainty. The Philippine National Oil Company Exploration Corporation has also begun sourcing the oil from global markets to strengthen buffer stocks. Oil prices are moving again as tensions in the Middle East continue to unsettle global markets. For a fuel importing country like the Philippines, those shifts ripple through transport costs, food prices, and inflation. Today, we step back and look beyond the pump price and ask what signals we should really be watching in the economy when energy shocks happen. And we are joined now by Noel Leco. Good afternoon, Noel. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me back. I think the last time I was here, we were talking about.
Yes.
Now this is
now we have a
totally
bigger
different
issue at hand, Professor. Now, when oil prices rise, headlines, what are the early warning signs in the economy that tell you a shock is becoming serious?
I think if we consider the value of increases and the speed by which these increases are happening, I think those are early warning signs that a shock or a major disruption will happen. So, for example, in the last few days, particularly during the first week of the war in Iran, the pump prices went up by, I think, at least 10 pesos. Now we're talking about 20, 30, and increases are happening like on a daily basis now. So it looks like this is something that cannot be ignored.
Now, Professor, when we look at Brent crude, Dubai, or MOPS, which benchmark is the basis of fuel prices here in the Philippines?
I think we're using the Brent price, which is the most widely used in pricing oil in the market.
Now, we go through this cycle again and again, Professor, whenever global oil prices spike. At what point do we admit this is not a temporary problem, but a structural weakness in the economy?
I think, the frequency by which this is happening and the pressure that the government or the country needs to do something, I think that is an indication that this is not just a regular disruption. This is not just a regular temporary spike, but I think it is an indication that the country's policy framework is quite shaky. A simple issue, for example, whenever there is this happens. Now this is major. This is
Yes.
not just the weather. This
Yes.
is not just the storm,
Yes.
but this is something else.
Now, have there been any lessons learned from the past in terms of how we can mitigate what's happening today?
Oh, yes. There are plenty of lessons that we can draw from, particularly just the more recent Ukraine war, the Russian and Ukraine conflict. That was a major disruption, and that should have already given us a warning. The price of oil went up. It hit 100, 120, and then after it came down, it felt like business as usual. So we didn't do anything. What could we have done? I think we should have anticipated.
Because if
We should
we've
have
learned any
listened.
lessons from the past, are there any done today to get past that?
Oh, yes. I think the buffer stock should have been reviewed. That should have been considered. Instead of that 30-day buffer, we could have increased it to something like 50, 60. But now, I think it's too late to do that. We are going to source oil at a much higher rate and also a limited window. Everybody is now trying to do that. So it's good to hear that the country was able to source
An additional
from
10 days.
10 days. So that will increase it to 40, 50 days. But that's still not enough. Hearing it from other countries, like, well, of course, Japan is a much higher and much advanced country. They have 250 days. So when I heard that, I was like, so what can we do? We only have 30 days, 40 days, and it's good that we have an additional 10 days.
What should be the standard number of days of stock, Professor?
Well, I haven't heard much about what countries should have, but I think personally, I would feel if we have 100 days, particularly with this kind of volatility, we should have at least 100 days and probably more. And also, instead of just sourcing area, we could already start considering different sources, not just from the Strait of Hormuz, which is like more than 80% of our oil comes from. And by the way, this is not the government sourcing it, it's the private sector. So when we consider volatility, when we consider flexibility, when we consider what can the government do, we're looking at, I think, they're just basically requesting oil companies and suggesting. There's not much of a regulatory authority other than what is allowed by the oil deregulation law. So while the government may seem to have is particularly saying that, okay, we're reviewing the excise tax, but that is not much. That is not enough to say that the government has a good handle on our energy policy.
Now, Professor, if oil prices stay elevated for months, what breaks first in the economy? Is it household spending, small businesses, or government finances?
All of them, but perhaps not in the same order. I think personally, the consumer, the households will feel the brunt the pinch or actually the pain of higher oil prices in
Yes.
the market. We'll see that right away in our pump prices. Of course, businesses will feel it, particularly those in the transportation and logistics sector. But definitely, everybody who's into production, who's even into services, they
Are
will
affected,
feel
yes.
definitely. And of course, the bottom line is the government will feel it because if the economy slows down, tax collections will also slow down, and therefore the government spending will also have to take note.
Professor, we often hear that fuel price hikes are beyond our control. But is that entirely true, or have policy gaps made the Philippines more exposed than it should be?
That is only partially true, but a very significant truth in pricing oil. But remember, we're dealing with the landed price. And before we see landed price or fuel pump prices, there are a number of things, a number of processes, steps that oil will have to go through. And the government may have its flexibility in terms of do we charge them tariff? I'm not sure if we only charge excise tax is paid for by the consumer. The tariff is paid for by the importer, but eventually passed on
To the
to
consumer.
the consumer.
Now,
So it's not exactly, a one-way street that when we see prices moving in the oil market, in the world market, that there's not much we can do. There is still a lot that we can do.
you mentioned excise tax, Professor. Suspending fuel tax is always the quick response. Now, is that sound economics, or is it a politically convenient move that creates bigger problems later on?
I think you hit it right on in the head. It's more political than economics. Remember, it's excise tax is fixed. It's 10 pesos, 6 pesos, or 5 pesos per liter, depending on what you're buying. If you're buying diesel, gasoline, or kerosene. But the impact of suspending excise tax is not going to be much. Remember, the prices of oil have already gone up anywhere from 20 to 40%. The excise tax is just a fraction of how much the prices of oil have gone up. And therefore, I think the government will also have to consider, in addition to the excise tax, perhaps the value-added tax, which, by the way, the higher the prices of oil, the higher the prices of fuel is imposed on the consumer, the higher the consumers will pay, because it's a percentage of the price, of the amount.
12%,
so I think the government will have to consider that. If the government wants to create an impact on the household spending. Remember, the government spending, the household spending, they constitute the biggest chunk of our GDP. Household spending, a lot more than public spending. If purchasing power is weakened, we are looking at a weakened GDP, and perhaps a much slower GDP growth rate than last year.
Now, Professor, how much of today's inflation risk is actually imported through energy, and how much is driven by local policy decisions?
I think, I'm not sure if it's a 50-50 cut. Definitely imported fuel will have a major contribution to it. But policies adopted by the government will also have a lot to do with it. So, for example, agricultural, if we continue to import rice, import food, import a lot of things that we consume here in the country, instead of
Producing it here.
producing them here, instead of the government creating incentives to reinforce our agriculture. I think that is a major policy role of the. What do? Do you import or do you produce them here? Now we are so vulnerable, considering that even the peso is also taking a beating
Yes.
in the currency exchange. So our imports are getting more expensive. And therefore, the landed prices of commodities being sold in the market here in the Philippines will be much, much higher.
Now, looking at the peso, it tends to weaken when oil prices rise. Now, are we looking at a situation where higher fuel costs could quietly trigger broader financial pressure?
Oh, yes, definitely. For example, if the currency market continues to show that the Philippine peso is weak, and combined with inflation, BS may most likely increase interest rate, and therefore increasing the cost of money in the country, making cost of production, making the cost of capital in the country be much heavier, and that will be carried by the consumer. So,
right now, Professor, who is actually absorbing the cost? Are businesses eating it? Are consumers already paying for it? Or is it being pushed down the line?
I think it is being pushed down, but the major burden is being carried by the household consumers. The small and medium enterprises, I think, are also carrying a major burden in it, because they're so small, they really don't have the power to negotiate in the market. So they're just basically accepting it.
Now, for small businesses running on thin margins, Professor, how close are we to seeing closures or cutbacks if fuel prices remain volatile?
Close. I think we're nearing that already. I was talking to some entrepreneurs earlier, and they were already talking about if the prices continue to increase, they need to increase their price, the charges that they impose on their clients. And I am afraid that the clients may just pull back and not continue with their projects. So we're looking at a very sensitive situation right now. Cost of doing business is getting more expensive, and consumers and the other businesses that are relying on other businesses who will have to charge higher might pull back, and that is a dangerous scenario that we're looking at.
Professor, during these kinds of disruptions, there will be a lot of losers, but on the other side, winners. Now, who benefits when oil prices surge, and are we paying enough attention to that side of the equation?
You know, we're looking at higher oil prices, but we're not exactly looking at how the oil companies are benefiting from this. Basically, higher oil prices are being passed on to the consumers. Meanwhile, we, the consumers, are looking at gasoline stations, and perhaps many of the gasoline stations are not principal players in that industry. So we should be looking at the major oil companies. They're definitely benefiting from it.
Professor, we've seen a particular gas station lowering their prices despite the rising cost of gasoline stations should look at that as well to help out the consumers.
You know, the gasoline stations, perhaps particularly the retailers, the independent retailers, are not in the most favorable position to say that we are going to subsidize the higher oil prices. You know, poor retailers, poor gasoline stations, you know, I can see that many of them would probably close or probably pull back on this business. Retailing is not a good business, particularly in the oil industry. But if you are a wholesaler, I think that is where the money is.
Where the margins are. Now,
Exactly.
Now, Professor, finally, if this cycle keeps repeating every few years, what does that say about how prepared the Philippines really is for the next shock?
Well, it just basically reveals how vulnerable, how shaky, weak our energy policy is. We've been talking about alternative policy. We're even talking about solar energy. We even gave a franchise to an individual who basically took advantage of that franchise and sold it, if I am not mistaken, and made money on it. No, I think the energy policy of the country really deserves a lot to be improved.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much, Professor, for your time and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Good to see you.
We're taking another break. This is Business Brief. The United Arab Emirates General Civil Aviation Authority announces the temporary and full closure of the country's airspace as precautionary measure. The UAE's Defense Ministry previously said it was responding to incoming missile threats from Iran. The UAE's biggest port and oil storage facility, as well as the Dubai International Airport, have been targeted by Iran's drone attacks. The US-UK alliance faces tension as President Trump criticizes Prime Minister Starmer's military decision-making. We have this report. US President Donald Trump lashes out at British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for his cautious approach in conducting military operations in the Middle East. The UK said it can help, but Trump says NATO has been relying on US protection for years.
Prime Minister of UK, United Kingdom, yesterday told me I'm meeting with my team to make a determination. I said, you don't need to meet it with the team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make your own. Why do you have to meet with your team to find out whether or not you're going to send some minesweepers to us or to send some boats?
Union foreign ministers say they have no plans to expand an EU naval mission in the Middle East to the Strait of Hormuz for now. This despite calls by Trump to help police the strait. The EU's Aspides mission, named after the Greek word for shields, was established in 2024 to protect ships from attacks by Yemen's Houthi rebel group in the Red Sea.
This is not Europe's war, and this situation in the region, we have the Operation Aspides, as I said, in the Red Sea. The discussion was that it should be strengthened because it doesn't have too many naval assets. It should have more. But the discussion on whether we are, also extending this mandate to cover the Strait of Hormuz, to go north from the Muscat line, there was no appetite from the member states to do that. As I said, this is nobody wants to go actively in this war, and of course everybody is concerned what will be the outcome.
Over at the UN, its spokesman said there are discrete efforts to resolve the conflict. Israel said it has made plans for at least 3 more weeks of war against Iran.
I can tell you that the Secretary General remains very much engaged and in frequent contact with senior officials in the region and beyond. But we're not going to be feeding the speculation. The Secretary General will continue to work discreetly on this because, frankly, the stakes are too high.
Concerns continue to grow over the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, a vital passageway for energy. U.S. President Donald Trump has asked China if he can delay his visit because of his country's war with Iran. The meeting between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping is supposed to take place between March 31 to April 2. U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent said the meeting's delay would not be due to Washington's request that Beijing help in the Gulf or any trade disagreements.
Secondly, sir, do you travel to Beijing at the end of this?
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here, I feel. And so we've requested that we delay it a month or so. And I'm looking forward to being with them. We have a very good relationship, but because of the war, there's no tricks to it either. It's not like, oh, gee, I'm waiting. It's very simple. We got a war going on. I think it's important that I be here. So it could be that we delay it a little bit.
Amid rising oil prices, Filipino workers still face no wage increase. On BNC's disposed Kamanggagawa Party List representative Eli San Fernando said that the national minimum wage bill has yet to be calendared for plenary debate in the lower chamber. He noted that while the committee groundwork is complete, the scheduling is held up in the House Rules Committee chaired by presidential son Sandro Marcos.
So itong bill na yung mga major concerns ng mga iba't ibang grupo, business groups and other sectors, ina-address na. Tapos kung may ilan pa tingin nila na hindi na sa pool o nakapaloob dito sa National Minimum Wage Bill, yung HB 8081, daanin natin sa debate.
Tama.
Tapos kung may gusto ko yung amyenda, doon natin sa plenary daanin. Pero hindi mangyayari hanggat hindi na sa schedule.
Alam niyo to sigurado. How do you set or calendar for a plenary debate an issue? So meron na, kompleto na yung groundwork. Tapos na, may reporting committee. The congressmen are willing. They have signed on 191, more than majority na yan. Where's the hold-up?
Sa rules.
Sino yung head?
Rules kasi yung nagsiset ng ano eh.
Who is the majority leader?
Representative Sandro Marcos.
Pakiulit?
Representative Sandro Marcos.
Okay. Kala ko mali lang yung pagdinig ko.
A candidate that will be endorsed by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. cannot beat Vice President Sara Duterte in 2028. But South Asia's Ana Tabunda told BNC's At the Forefront an administration's candidate can have a fighting chance if he or she gains support from both Luzon and the Visayas.
The endorsement of President Marcos will be nil. They can't just rely on Balance Luzon. Although Balance Luzon is much larger, Balance Luzon is like Visayas and Mindanao combined. They will have to get support from Visayas and Mindanao. In the case of the presidency in 2028, it's going to be hard to find someone who can draw away support from Sara in Mindanao. So they may have to look at a candidate who can draw support, not necessarily be from Visayas, but can draw support from Visayas.
The latest Pulse Asia survey shows improved trust and approval rating for PBBM, but his numbers are still lower compared to VP Sara's. Tabunda doubts if the president's rating in Mindanao can still improve.
I don't think he can improve his trust and approval ratings in Mindanao, considering that there is this rift between the president and Vice President Sara Duterte. In the case of Visayas, he may have to be seen personally looking after the programs that benefit Visayans.
The Akbayan Party slams the looming closure of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. The group's president, Rafaela David, tells BNC's On Point the agency has extremely under-delivered. David also stressed the, quote, big fish behind the flood control scandal have yet to be made accountable.
Ang meron palang napatawan ng arrest ay si Bong Revilla, Senator Bong Revilla. Ang sabi ngayon ng ombudsman ay meron silang or at least tinutuloy daw nila yung bola nung inasa sa kanila ng ICI, and they're conducting preliminary investigations sa ilan pa dun sa mga malalaking isda na ito. So para sa atin, ito ay puro preliminary investigations pa lang, recommendations from the ICI, at wala pa talagang ganap na mga kaso na napafile.
The ICI is set to shut down on March 31st. David suggests that instead of closing the operations, the Commission should be strengthened to ensure accountability and results. While fuel prices rise, Shell South Forbes is cutting the price of diesel by 3 pesos per liter from their regular prices. The co-owner of the gas station, Anthony Pangilinan, said he made the decision in consultation with his business partner, his son, actor Donnie Pangilinan. Shell South Forbes will keep the lower prices as long as they are able. Anthony Pangilinan said his son's idea didn't make sense number-wise, but was in sync with their mission to support those who need it most. For the Pangilinan, supporting the community comes first, proving that business decisions can also be acts of empathy. Asian shares mostly rise after oil prices drop, boosting U.S. stocks to their best day since the Iran war began. Majority of the Asian shares are in the green, with Kospi rising the most at nearly 2%. In currency trading, the U.S. dollar mostly appreciates against the Asian currencies. In commodities, gold trades higher while oil prices are up. In crypto, Bitcoin rises almost 0.3%. Ethereum drops over 1%. Philippine shares end in the positive territory. The PSEI closes 0.3% higher to 60.26. Majority of the sectoral indices end in the green, with services rising the most at over 1%. Decliners outpace advancers 95 to 92, with value turnover at 7.3 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with Dominion Holdings rising the most at 50%. DigiPlus falls the most at nearly 4%. In currencies, the peso closes at 59.80 against the U.S. dollar, up from the previous close of 59.87. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, or RCBC, will close its 3-year ASEAN Sustainability Bond offer on Tuesday, 10 days early. The bank, chaired by Bilyonaryo Helen Yuchenko-D, cited strong demand from retail and institutional investors for the early closing. The bonds are part of RCBC's 200 billion peso bond and commercial paper program. They offer a 6.08% fixed coupon with a 100,000 peso minimum investment. Despite rising global oil prices, Motorsports remains an important platform for Toyota Motor Philippines, not just for innovation, but also for connecting with drivers. And this year, the action kicks off with a street race. Our mobility correspondent, G. Baroga, takes us trackside.
Toyota's motorsport program in the country is back on track as the Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippine Cup fires up its new season with a street race in River Park, Cavite. This comes as global oil prices continue to climb amid the Middle East crisis. Toyota PH President Masando Hashimoto says the company is closely monitoring the situation while looking at how the industry can help without compromising the joy of driving and the fun of motorsports.
We are doing the motorsports here today, but we hope this event could give the more hope, or say positive optimism to the people who are now in the Middle East area.
With more motorists considering the shift to electric vehicles, he says EVs are just one part of the solution. Toyota continues to offer a range of options in the country, from EVs and hybrids to diesel and gasoline models, giving drivers the freedom to choose what works best for them. The highlight of this year's race season is the new Tamaraw class, featuring the iconic workhorse that is also now a racehorse on the track. And joining the race himself is Hashimoto-san.
The course is really tough and quite difficult to maneuver the car. It's very tight and so very quick. So I have to try push my limit.
For champion racer Inigo Anton, driving and racing a truck is also a first. He says the street circuit is like a baptism of fire with its tight, technical layout that requires focus and precision.
They're on pace with the Vios cars. They have a lot of power and you can see them drifting as well. So it is a definitely new experience and lots to learn. So I've been really enjoying driving these cars.
Meanwhile, Pawi Basim makes his circuit racing debut in the Vios sporting class after becoming a two-time slalom champion. While there are similarities, he says circuit and street racing require a different approach, especially with stock cars.
Any unnecessary inputs, it's already costing time, so it's a whole different consistency and a whole different execution.
For Gabby De Sales, who's been racing across different disciplines for a decade, learning continues in sprint races. She's also proud to see more women finding their place in motorsports.
It's a small community that we have in this male-dominated sport. We feel empowered in this community, so women belong where they feel empowered.
After the street race right here in River Park, Cavite, the next stop of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippine Cup is the Clark International Speedway, a track many racers know all too well. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
Sent to an intraday high of 5 pesos 93 centavos at the Philippine Stock Exchange. The rally followed the election of Henry Big Boy C. Jr. and Isidro Consunghi to the company's board. Metropolitan Bank and Trust Company, or Metrobank, launches a 5 billion peso sustainability bond offering. The Series F ASEAN Sustainability Peso bonds carry a 5.47% fixed annual interest rate with a year-and-a-half tenor. The offer may be upsized to meet strong demand. It also aligns with Metrobank's commitment to finance projects with positive environmental and social impact under its sustainable finance framework. The country's digital forensics agency is targeting unlicensed online gambling, among other crimes. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC, is cooperating with public agencies, including the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, to crack down on illegal online gambling. This includes operations serving overseas markets. CICC warned authorities to remain vigilant against cyber criminals running pogo hubs and other illegal gambling activities. The Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, shuts down Dual Fuel Petroleum Corporation for illegally soliciting investments through an unauthorized gasoline station co-ownership scheme. In a February 17 order, the SEC canceled the company's registration for violating the revised Corporation Code and Securities Regulation Code. The regulator found the firm offered unregistered investment contracts without the required licenses. Tensions between the Vibal siblings remain high as familial disputes continue. Gaspar Vibal's legal counsel pushed back against claims that Maria Christine Mandigma's reinstatement as chief executive officer lacked legal basis. Attorney Micaelo Jaime Reyes said the National Labor Relations Commission, or NLRC, had approved a compromise deal. This gives Gaspar implied and apparent authority to resolve employment disputes. DNL Industries Incorporated, or DNL, sees no immediate impact from a proposed law allowing the suspension of mandatory fuel blending. The company explained current pricing remains far from the level that would trigger the intervention. The bill, fast-tracked as urgent by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., would temporarily halt the Biofuels Act of 2006 to curb inflation. A suspension can only occur if blended fuel prices exceed pure fuel by 5%. DMCI Holdings Incorporated elevates Maria Cristina Consunghi Gotianon to vice chairman and treasurer amid a board shakeup. She replaces her sister, Maria Edwina Laperal, now assistant treasurer. Chairman Isidro Sid Consunghi took over as executive committee chair, and veteran investment banker Erlaster Aster Soto joined as independent director. The move came as Semirara's coal contract is set to end in July 2027, opening the mining rights to competition. The board of Dominion Holdings undergoes a major shakeup as Montesur takes control. Henry C. Jr. of SM Investments and Sid Consunghi of DMCI joined the new board with Frederick Dibuncio named chairman and president. Other appointees include top executives from DMCI Mining, Maya Bank, and former Supreme Court Justice Rosmarie Carandang. The changes spark speculation of a possible SM-DMCI alliance and the integration of the C family's Tampakan mining assets into Dominion Holdings. Philippine IT firm DFN Incorporated will convert up to 600 million pesos worth of debt into shares. The company approved it on March 5. The plan will issue up to 500 million common shares and 100 million preferred shares to retire existing liabilities. Common shares will come from an increased authorized capital to 2 billion pesos, while preferred shares will be from existing unissued stock, both at 1 peso per share. DFNN said the move will improve its balance sheet, strengthen financial position. This will also eliminate interest and penalty obligations. Spain's king makes a rare acknowledgement of colonial abuses. During a visit to Madrid's Museum of Archaeology, King Felipe VI said colonial laws were meant to protect, but in reality, there was much abuse.
When we study certain things in our modern-day criteria, with our values, obviously we can't feel proud. But we must learn from this, within its context, without too much moral from the present. We must learn lessons through objective and rigorous analysis.
At its height from the 16th to 18th centuries, Spain ruled a global empire, including much of Central and Latin America. The country also colonized the Philippines for more than 3 centuries. That's the wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert San. Join us again tomorrow for the stories that help you plan your next big, bold business moves. Only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.